After a surprising season in 2023, the Missouri Tigers are back on track to do it again. And it's going to be a little bit tougher in the SEC, and Eli Drinkwitz and his staff know the challenges that await them. There are some changes with this team, along with the coaching staff. You're looking at a team that, again, you're coming off success from 2023, looking to do it again in 2024. And today we take a deep dive into this team to see how they make that happen. Before we do that, though, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video. It goes a long way in helping this channel. We're almost done with the deep dive series. The college football season is almost here, so that's really exciting. It's been a really fun series to do so far, and we're almost at the end. Kind of sad in a way, but we're going to keep it going with Missouri. Now, Eli Drinkwitz has done a great job at Missouri. He has done some really phenomenal things, and last year was an example of that. And an 11-2 finish wasn't something that anyone really expected, maybe even within the program. They knew they probably had some good talent, and you kind of did if you paid attention to Missouri, but I don't know if anybody expected 11-2. This was a team that had an offense that was very explosive, and we'll talk about the reason why. And you're going to see just a lot of similar things from this team in 2024. Kirby Moore is back on the offensive side of the ball. He is a big reason why this team had so much success in 2024, and he is back to do things once again. Corey Batoon takes over the defensive coordinator role. When you look at what this group did last year, they lose quite a bit of talent, but there are plenty of familiar names and big names that are going to be fun to watch. We saw a glimpse of some of those new faces in the spring game, and now we get a chance to see what they can do for a full season. And we talked about some new faces, and you're going to see some of them perform at a high level. And I thought that this staff did a really good job of getting some one underrated talent that is going to probably surprise a lot of people, but also some really, really good talent that's going to start right off the bat. And they beat out some good teams for some of these guys like Caden Green and Marcus Bryant. When you talk about the transfer portal offensive linemen come at a premium, and Marcus Bryant was a late addition to the transfer portal from SMU, and this team found a way to get him. That was one of the bigger things that I saw from this team from Missouri. They were able to get two quality linemen, and both of them are going to start. So that's one of the biggest things that we'll talk about here. We'll talk about them in a little bit, obviously, when we get to the offensive line. But I thought those were two phenomenal signings by this team. Darius Smith and Zion Young are two guys on the defensive line that are going to contribute and probably play at a high level at some point. We'll dive into them obviously more as well. Toriano Pride was probably one of the bigger names to get in the transfer portal, comes back to Missouri and finds a way to showcase what he can do pretty quickly after coming in from Clemson. So I thought, again, you have a number of potential starters, good depth pieces from this transfer portal class. And you also, I don't know, I don't honestly think that this group lost a ton of talent. You lost some players that were good depth pieces, but I thought that they did a good job of replacing certain guys that they felt they needed, but they also did a good job of recruiting and bringing in talent to build towards the long-term future of this team. So this staff did a really good job of addressing needs, and they also brought in some players that have bright futures within this program. And we'll start with the offense as we always do. Brady Cook is one of those players that made this team an 11-2 team. If not for Brady Cook, this team probably does not go 11-2. And that was one of the biggest questions we had coming into 2023 was what is Brady Cook able to do to help this offense thrive, to help catapult this offense to another level. Threw for over 3,300 yards and 21 touchdowns, took care of the football as well, limited his interceptions. That was probably the biggest thing. And now this year, there's a bigger challenge awaiting him. To be able to replicate that success is going to be the biggest question for him. And finding ways to move the football down the field shouldn't be difficult, but there's also plenty of questions. Teams know what he's capable of doing. They've seen a full year of his skill set when he's playing confidently. And you can bet the defensive coordinators are trying to figure out ways to bait him into poor decisions. It's going to be really difficult to do that, though. I think that he played really smart last year, and that light bulb definitely went on. So you definitely know he's capable of replicating that success. It's just a matter of can he adapt to certain things that teams are going to throw his way. The rushing attack should be very interesting. You brought in Nate Noel from App State. You bring in Marcus Carroll from Georgia State. Now, the coaching staff hasn't indicated which one of them will be the starter. It's definitely going to be a two-man rotation. And obviously, we've seen good things from both of these running backs, but we'll see who actually gets the majority of the carries or maybe just more of the carries. I don't know if they'll get the majority, but as long as both are healthy, they should both be options in the rushing attack. Noel's a very interesting player from a versatility standpoint. You can use him in the passing attack. You can use him as a runner as well. Carroll did a little bit of that at Georgia State, was more of the runner, over 1,300 yards and 13 touchdowns. He is more comfortable when you hand the ball off to him, obviously. But again, both players super talented, and they are headlining what should be an interesting rushing attack, a group that finished 49th last year. You're hoping that this group can take a step forward. Behind Brady Cook is where things really get interesting because you bring in Drew Pine for a year. You have him coming in from Arizona State. Actually, I don't know how much eligibility he has, but he comes in to back up Brady Cook. Obviously, things didn't go well for him at Notre Dame. Things didn't go for all for him at Arizona State. We'll see what he can do at Missouri. Hopefully, Missouri is planning to use Cook obviously all year. They hope that they don't have to go to a backup. Brett Brown, a sophomore, is there as well. We'll see if he gets any reps or if they're looking to build towards the long term for his game, his development. We will see that the depth behind the running back position probably is a question mark for this team. Kewan Lacey's a freshman who this staff really likes. He'll be really exciting to watch. You also have DeVaris Jones, another young player that could step up. Again, Noel and Carroll should be the two guys that get a majority of the carries, but who's going to be that third guy? Who's going to be the third guy to step into that rotation? You know that they're going to use three backs. It's just a matter of what that third back is in terms of touches. So those are two guys that could take a step forward and be part of that rotation, which is what Missouri needs. You need good depth to run the football because the rushing attack is so important. Because if you have a balanced offense, this passing attack is going to be lethal, and you already have a ton of options. You have Luther Burden. Everybody knows who Luther Burden is. And one of the biggest things coming into 2023 was, can Luther Burden be that five-star player that we saw in high school? We knew he was capable of doing certain things, but his first year wasn't exactly the best. Averaged under 10 yards per catch, and it was kind of disappointing to be honest. And so we knew that he was capable of doing things. We just needed to see it more consistently. And last year you saw a breakout season for him. Over 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns is exactly what Missouri fans wanted to see from him. It's exactly what they expected for him to do, and he is back for what should be another explosive year. Now, teams are very aware of what he can do. That's kind of one of the things going with Brady Cook. Everybody knows what Luther Burden can do as well. So guys like Theo Weiss and Mookie Cooper are going to be big players when it comes to stepping up and might produce a little bit more than they did last year. Luther Burden is obviously a very talented player. Teams know what he's capable of doing. So I anticipate that the targets might go down a little bit because teams are going to adjust his way. Weiss and Cooper are going to be able to step up and showcase what they can do. They're going to get more opportunities to showcase their talent. And then if they can't get the job done, which would be surprising, you have plenty of depth behind them. Marquise Johnson is an absolute explosive player, 383 yards. He averaged 29.5 yards per catch. Absolutely insane. Joshua Manning is back. He has some experience. We'll see what he can do as a pass catcher a little bit more. Makai Miller had 148 yards and 1 touchdown last year as well. So you have great options at the wide receiver position. Brady Cook and the quarterbacks have plenty of talent to hit downfield. The tight end position is also very interesting. Brett Norfleet is 6'7", 235 pounds. So kind of has that frame that's more of a pass catching frame, but he is definitely a big target that will be a valuable weapon for this passing attack too. Everybody's worried about the wide receivers, which could open some really great opportunities for the tight ends. Tyler Stevens and Jordan Harris are behind him as well. The offensive line obviously plays a role in that as well. And you're looking at a group that has plenty of talent. We talked about Marcus Bryant and Caden Green, and as you can see, they are going to man the left side of the offensive line. Brian was a huge addition for this team. Again, he was late to the transfer portal, and Missouri went after him hard, and they landed a tackle, a position that everybody needed in the transfer portal. Caden Green is a guy who can play both guard and tackle, so he's a valuable weapon as well. He's going to be a great addition to this offensive line. Connor Tollison is back, 26 games played for him, 25 starts, a very valuable piece to have in the center position. That's great for Brady Cook and in this offense and the offensive line specifically. Cameron Johnson is back after a solid season in 2023. The former Houston transfer showcased that he can compete in the SEC. Kind of makes you wonder what Houston was doing with him. But, that is what it is. And Cameron Johnson is in a better place. He has found his home with Missouri, and he has done a lot of good things. He is back with plenty of experience. And then the right tackle position, Armand Menbo is going to be fun to watch. Had a solid year in 2023, and he is back again with good experience. So this offensive line feels like it's in a good spot. The skill positions feel like they're in a good spot. Your offense feels like it's going to be another solid group in 2024. The depth behind the offensive linemen is a little bit of a concern. You have some inexperience, but you also have some young talent. Guys like Talon Chandler and Logan Reichert are young players have bright futures. So in the end, I think that you're feeling pretty good offensively. If you are Missouri, if you're a Missouri fan, you expect some really exciting things from this group, and it's easy to see why. The defense is going to be an interesting group as well because you have a new calling plays. You have a new set of players that are going to get things done. And I don't normally talk about position coaches in these deep dive series, but Brian Early is one of the most underrated defensive line coaches in college football. Whether he's coaching the ends, the tackles, he has done a great job. He did a great job at Houston. If you look at the defensive line talent that Houston produced, two of the bigger defensive line transfers this year came from Houston. And obviously, they didn't land at Missouri, but they did land at some big schools. Chidozie Nwankwo is going to Colorado, and you're looking at Jamar Caldwell is going to Oregon. So you have guys that he coached, and he is directly responsible for their success. And so if you're a Missouri fan, you feel pretty good about what this defensive line is capable of doing. And it's just a matter of we will see what happens when everything gets put together. Now, there are certain players that are already doing some really exciting things in practice that we have already heard. Zion Young is one of them, is the Michigan State transfer. He is someone that is set to have a big year for this team, and they need him because you lose one player opposite of Johnny Walker. Everybody knows what Johnny Walker is capable of doing, a really good player, and he is someone that will be fun to watch opposite of whoever that other guy is going to be. Zion Young right now is that guy. It could be Darius Smith. Darius Smith is kind of on the leaner side of things, but he is a really explosive player. When you look at what he did in the spring game, you saw a lot of potential in his game. Obviously, you'd want to see him maybe bulk up a little bit, but he is someone who is set to have a really fun career with the Tigers. And obviously, Johnny Walker is going to do a lot of good things. It's nice to have Zion Young and Darius Smith to help him out because he is going to command a lot of attention. He is going to get plenty of familiarity with double teams, chips, and all that stuff because teams know how good he can be. So that's something to keep an eye on. What is that opposite defensive end capable of doing? Then on the inside, you have Christian Williams and Chris McClellan. Those are two guys that have good size and are set to make things really interesting. I thought that the defensive tackle position was a fun group to watch in the spring. Again, you can only take so much from the spring, but I think that they did a really good job of competing. And you have those two guys. You have Marcus Graciel, who will be part of that mix. Sterling Webb from New Mexico State. You have good depth up front. So if you're a Missouri fan and you're looking at the defense, you feel pretty good about the options that are available to you. The linebacker position is another interesting one. You probably have some more questions given that you don't have a ton of continuity at the position. But at the same time, I think that the options you do have should be a reason for excitement if you're a Missouri fan. Obviously, the new play caller is going to make things a little bit different, but at the same time, with the talent they have coming back, it's a matter of that on top of communication. And some of these guys coming back makes it a little bit easier to take a deep breath and understand that you're still going to be in good hands. Tristan Newson is back after 51 tackles, 7 tackle for loss season. Chuck Hicks is a really interesting player. I think he's very underrated in the SEC circles. 6'1", 230 pounds, He does a really good job of getting the football, 53 tackles, 11 tackles for loss. So this is a disruptive group, and it's just a matter of who are the depth pieces behind them. That's probably the biggest question if you're a Missouri fan and looking at the linebacker position. Khalil Jacobs comes in from South Alabama. He was a disruptive player. But again, you're coming from the group of five to the SEC. We'll see what happens there. Corey Flagg is a multi-year starter for the Miami Hurricanes who comes to Missouri from the transfer portal. They will see what they can get out of him. Then you have some younger talent. Brian Huff is a very interesting freshman, as well as Brayshawn Littlejohn, a redshirt freshman, who both of them, I think, have some bright futures, and his coaching staff likes what they have in both of them. It's just a matter of how much playing time are they going to get, because you have four guys in front of them. They're going to make it difficult, but that's not going to stop them. This coaching staff wants to breed competition and get guys in as quickly as possible. It does not matter if you are a veteran. It does not matter if you are a young player, a freshman. They want to see whoever's the best and put them in that spot to help contribute to this team. The secondary is going to be kind of similar to that. Only difference is that they have plenty of experience coming back. And you also get Toriano Pride from the transfer portal. I think Missouri fans were really excited about that addition, and we saw what he's capable of doing early and often in the times that we've seen this Missouri team play. Toriano Pride is going to face a lot of good competition this year. They're going to face a number of talented wide receivers, and he is going to get tested quite a bit. And I think we're going to see a guy who is ready for that challenge. Opposite of him, Drayden Norwood probably gets a lot more attention in terms of teams testing him, because Pride has so much talent, and I think he is going to shut people down quite frequently, where Norwood is going to get a lot more attention, get tested a lot more. So he is set for a very important year for this secondary. Balin Carnell is back at the nickel position. We will see what he can do at that spot. He is a veteran who has played a long time for the Missouri Tigers, and he is someone who can get a lot of these guys up to speed and help them understand this is what we're trying to do. Here's what happens when one guy does this. What coverage are we doing here? What kind of different looks do we want to present? He is someone that helps tremendously. Marvin Burks comes into the starting lineup here. He is going to enter a new role for this secondary in terms of his importance. And joining him is Joseph Charleston, 61 tackles last year. So the safety position is really interesting. And this is a group that I think needs to improve a little bit. They finished 47th against the pass last year. They had plenty of talent. And I think as a whole, they definitely can get better. And this defense has plenty of things to work with up front. So that should help the secondary as well while they all gel together, because you're looking at Pride, Norwood, and Burks. Those are guys that are entering into this secondary for the first time in a larger capacity, or just for the first time in terms of Pride. Those are guys that are going to need some time to get acclimated, to communicate. So they've had plenty of time in spring and fall camps, and I'm excited to see what they can do now that they're all together. The depth behind them feels like it's pretty good. You have guys like Sidney Williams that are really fun to watch, Travis Johnson. You bring in Caleb Flagg as well from the transfer portal. You have players, good talent to be able to step up and give this team exactly what they need, which should be a really fun season. On schedules where things get really interesting, because the beginning should be pretty easy. And there's a reason why this over under is set at 9.5. And this is a team that I honestly can see an 11-1 season. You're looking at a very talented group. You're also looking at a floor of teams know what to expect from them, and that's going to be tough to replicate the success that you produced in 2023. Murray State, Buffalo, Boston College, and Vanderbilt are all winnable games. I think the only question you might have is Boston College, just because we don't really know what Boston College is going to look like. But I wouldn't even say that's a huge question if you're a Missouri fan, especially with the talent you have coming back. So that's a 4-0 start right off the bat. At Texas A&M is going to be tough. I think Texas A&M is a much better team than we saw in 2023, and they are a team that's going to probably compete for a college football playoff spot with Missouri. So this is going to be a really interesting test on October 5th, and it's a road trip that could be tough. At UMass is just such a random game that you're sending an SEC team to UMass. That's so random. That's so interesting. But that's not a game that I'm concerned about at all. Auburn, we'll see what they look like at this point. Auburn's definitely an X factor in the SEC. We don't really know what they're capable of doing, but we are going to find out pretty quick. And then the next stretch is a little bit on the tougher side. You travel to Alabama. We don't really know what Alabama is going to be. We will know at this point exactly what they are, but I have to put faith in Kalen DeBoer, and that's what's going to make them difficult. It's also a road trip to Tuscaloosa, so that's going to require your A game for sure. You get Oklahoma at home and then at South Carolina. Those are two potentially tough games. Mississippi State and Arkansas. Now, Mississippi State is probably going to be near the bottom of the conference this year, so this will probably be a win. Arkansas, depending if Sam Pittman has hung on to his job. If he is not, it's going to be a team that is maybe playing a little bit invigorated with a new coaching staff, but that's probably worn off by then. So I feel like that's definitely a win for Missouri. So again, anywhere between that 11-1 and 8-4 range, probably somewhere around 9-3, 10-2 is probably where this team actually fills out and fits. You're looking at a team that has plenty of talent. You're seeing a team that returns quality talent, quality players. And it's just a matter of, can you, now that teams know what you're capable of doing, can you do what you did in 2023? Are you capable of doing what you did this past year? Because teams know that they have to switch things up. They're going to give you different looks. They know who your key players are and what they're capable of doing. And it's just a matter of, how do some of these new pieces fit for Missouri, and how do they combat some of the adversity they're going to face in terms of teams making adjustments when they face them, and how do they turn that into another potential double-digit win season in 2024?